And as you can see, BB's doing really well too. Just a few weeks ago, he couldn't walk. We want to continue to let the special diet he's on heal him.
I will never forget Tigger G and Ziggy's rescue. Get to this place and we pull around the back where they were, and literally the cage may have been 8 foot tall with like a foot little recurve, and Ziggy, this massive male tiger, was sitting on a bench about a foot down from the top of it. And I'll never forget Tanya saying, "Leave the truck doors open, because if that cat goes over it, we got to be able to get in the truck." Thankfully, he did not. And they both loaded pretty smoothly. We had to make like a makeshift chute for them to get up in. In the meantime, while we were doing this, his grandson said, "Grandpa, what about the frozen tiger cubs that we had found?" And we're driving back here, and we just started doing the math. If she had the cubs in January, and then she very well could be pregnant at this time. So, and sure enough, she was. So just a few weeks after the rescue, BB King and Mac were born.
In 2008, before I had gotten my doctor's degree, just a lonely animal care intern driving up, first time ever being to the refuge. And right in front of the office, there were these 2 little tiger cubs goofing off, playing around, jumping on each other, right in front of the office area in this little temporary enclosure so that staff could take close care of them. Him and his brother were the first tigers I ever saw coming to Turpentine Creek. Their mom was Tigger G. Ziggy was their father. They were just recently rescued only a month prior. But mom was so stressed out with the rescue, which is very common with new rescues. So she was so stressed that she wasn't producing milk. She was not taking care of her babies. So it was medically necessary for us to go in and pull them and then hand raise them. Because of that, they've meant a lot to all of us here. Everyone's had very close relationships, especially senior staff who have been here for a long time. And he meant a lot to a lot of us.
You know, when you're with an animal for that long of its life and been through everything with them, it's a hard thing to see them go.
So yeah, like he meant a lot to me personally, just being that first cat that I ever saw and getting to watch him grow and getting to take care of him, both as an animal caretaker and then as his veterinarian.
Where are you going?
Pretty much, like, I just would call him one of the most relaxed tigers. Like, absolutely nothing bothered him. Maybe, except for when Mac would sit on him and things like that here and there, but.
He grew up into a really big boy. Him and his brother lived together that whole time, played together that whole time. Unfortunately, early on, he did start to develop some pretty severe arthritis in his hips. Just unfortunately, we commonly see that in these guys. Back in 2020, he had a really red, bizarre growth on the underside of his tongue. I was under the impression that it was just going to be a little, what we call inflammatory polyp, a kind of no big deal type diagnosis. So we did a wellness exam and got a biopsy on that.
fast forward, and we Dr. Kellen diagnosed him with cancer, hemangiosarcoma.
Hemangiosarcoma is a cancer of the blood vessels. And in particular, these were the blood vessels under his tongue, which is an extremely unusual location for this cancer to form. There's very little information on it, even in canines and domestic felines, in that location. I consulted with a veterinary oncologist about the best approach that we could do for BB. He was still a senior. He was 12 years old at the time of diagnosis, but he was otherwise healthy. He had that mild to moderate arthritis at that point, but doing well, and that he truly was a candidate for IV chemotherapy.
The first time IV chemotherapy has ever been used in a tiger, so of course we love all the animals, but some, when you've been around them since they were young, have that special place in everyone's heart. And I think everybody had a special place for him. So we thought, well, we'll try it. And our thing was, he needs to be willing to do this. He needs to want to load up into the roll cage, come down here to the hospital recovery area the night before so we could have everything ready. And Dr. Kellen and I discussed if at any time he doesn't want to, then we'll just, not go further with the treatment.
Because you're asking them to be sedated 5 to 6 different times. The treatment is once every 3 weeks. There's a lot involved. It's a really big deal. But we had a lot of confidence in BB, and he proved us very right.
And that guy, every time he wanted to get in that roll cage, usually the issue was him leaving the recovery area after the chemo. He thought it was just great being down here with all of us and a bed full of straw, and he would stay here for a few days before he could go back with Max. So that was usually the hardest part for us, was to get him to leave the hospital. But it was pretty intense going through all that and doing the chemo, and Dr. Kellen did a great job leading all of us, and everything that we had to go through to gown up and properly dispose of our gowns and holding off. And it was a very, very slow process, so it would take us pretty much the entire morning to prepare and then do it, and then the cleanup. But what a trooper he was, and it seemed to work.
Probably around another year after the chemotherapy before there was some regrowth. Luckily, because the tumor site was so tiny now, though, we were able to do an aggressive surgery on the tongue, which we couldn't do prior. With cats, grooming is very important to their quality of life, so you really can't remove a lot of a cat's tongue, and especially teaching them to re-eat and re-drink. In a domestic little tiny house cat, you could potentially coach them through that, but you can't do that with a tiger.
Of course, some spots came back on his tongue, and Dr. Kellen successfully was able to remove those. And so all of this that we went through with him, you would think that would be, how that loss would come about. So it's a little aggravating, to lose an animal to something not.
We started to note that there was some chronic intermittent, it wasn't happening all the time, but vomiting that was occurring. We got him on some just GI supportive meds to make him feel better and help him out, and put him on the schedule to hopefully kind of get that checked out if it didn't clear up on its own. By the next morning, he did not look like he felt good at all. He would not eat, he would not take his meds, and he needs those pain meds, because at this point, since 2020 to now, that arthritis in his hips has become very severe. He's got very little muscle left on the legs. When we got him in here and we did a diagnostics exam, we did see that he had a massive bloat going on in his stomach. And unfortunately, there's 2 treatment types for bloat. One would be surgery, which again, now he's 15-year-old tiger. That would be a major surgery going into his abdomen and cutting into his stomach, versus a conservative treatment, which would be the GI medications again. Unfortunately, at this point, he stopped taking oral meds for us. And the other part of that treatment is daily walks. Basically to get the gut moving just by exercise. And again, severe arthritis, and one making a tiger take a walk when he doesn't want to because he's painful, he's not taking his meds. It would just be a cycle that we would keep losing. So unfortunately, the decision was made. It was sorry.
Don't apologize.
It was one of the hardest decisions I've had to make as a veterinarian. But I couldn't be selfish, not for BB. So we did say goodbye.
Okay.
I thought it had been long enough. Jeez. Yeah. Anytime we lose an animal at the refuge is difficult, but some hit you harder than others. And to fight so hard to beat cancer, and that wasn't actually what got him, was, I think, probably harder for all of us, because at some point, at any point, that cancer could have spread and we could have lost him. But instead, the fight we gave him a few more years of a great life here at the refuge. So he will be deeply missed.
I really feel that kind of novel treatment and that tiger definitely helped extend his life. We got 3-4+ more years with him. And I think we were able to give him his best life here. So, and he'll be greatly missed.
Turpentine Creek Wildlife Refuge continues to lead the way in animal welfare and veterinarian care for big cats worldwide. Please provide your support through our monthly donations and giving options so that we can continue to lead the way in providing the best lives possible for big cats.